This is the Revenge of Shinobi for the Sega Genesis. Without a doubt, one of the greatest video games ever made, and on one of the greatest video game systems ever produced, the Sega Genesis. This was released in 1989 and was one of the first titles that I owned for my beloved Sega Genesis, my 16-bit wonder that still works perfectly today. They give you the backstory here at the beginning, so you know what's going on in Revenge of Shinobi. If you've been listening for a while, you know on Classic Game Room HD that I like ninjas, I like spaceships, I like cars, and I like things that blow up. This game has about 3 out of 4 of those, which is a good thing. This is probably my favorite ninja game of all time. And definitely one of the best side-scrolling adventure games that I can think of. This game has it all. Although I feel bad every time I have to kill the dogs. I like dogs, and if there was a way that Shinobi could maybe put his hand on the dog and do like a Vulcan mind meld or something, like a ninja mind meld, and make the dog his friend. Of course, in one of the Shinobi sequels, he does have a dog, so maybe he does do that. But this game just gets everything right. I like the size of the characters on the screen. I think that some side-scrolling games, the characters are too small, like Ninja Gaiden, for instance. I think in other games the characters are too big. I like the size of Shinobi. I think that he's a good size to play, but also to enjoy the backgrounds. This game has some memorable parallax scrolling. The end bosses fill up a huge chunk of the screen. You can see about 2.5 levels if you're jumping up and down. So it's just a good playable game. The controls are very nice, they're very responsive. I like that he can change direction in midair while spinning, another one of his secret ninja tactics, no doubt. The level design is simple, yet well done, and a lot of fun to play. Here we have the waterfall in the background. I've always enjoyed the parts where you have to jump on the logs and plan where to land. Revenge of Shinobi requires some memorization of the levels to get through. It's a very difficult game, but unlike some of the side-scrolling Nintendo games, it never gets terribly frustrating. In most cases, you don't have to memorize things right down to the pixel on where you need to land or exactly where you need to jump. There's a variety of different ways that you can get through the boards and defeat your enemies. This game also has wonderful music. Here we have Disco Shinobi. Disco Shinobi gets down with his bad self. Revenge of Shinobi doesn't follow the traditional snow level, lava level, forest level, desert level, but it does have a nice variety of urban decay. You saw that I just fired my shurikens, if that's how you pronounce that, and there was I think a extra life or something hanging on the wall there that I picked up. I used to know where those all were. The end bosses in Revenge of Shinobi are challenging, They require a bit of memorization on how they move to get your shots in the right place, and it helps when you have your shurikens powered up to where they're emitting flames. You know, when you get the power thing, and your shots are stronger. Here's the airport level where we see the front and back sides of the screen. Let's get behind this soldier and see if he notices us. Oh, there he goes. When Shinobi spins in midair, he can go behind the fence or come in front of the fence, so it gives you 2 whole levels of gameplay. And they use this technique a couple times in this game. Does their grenade-throwing arm ever get tired? The enemies are dumb as dirt and predictable, but at least they don't reappear when you get off the screen. This level represents something that I love in these side-scrolling adventure games, the airplane level, where the doors are just randomly opening and closing, and he would fall out of one if he walks too close to it. They don't affect the pressure in the plane at all. They just open and close. And it's not windy in there either. I like the brain in a jar. Maybe that's the end brain from Contra, shrunk down and put into Revenge of Shinobi. It was a brain, not a heart. If you've never played this game before, you certainly should, because it really is one of the finest examples of a side-scrolling adventure game. You notice when Shinobi spins in midair, he can throw a whole bunch of his shurikens out at bad guys. You start the game off with, I think it's normally 50. I was playing with a higher number. You can adjust the number to start with more shurikens. I was starting with 90. I'm a little rusty. I haven't played this game in a while, so I figured I could use a couple extra to get through the game review here. You have 3 continues. If you die at the end of a level at an end boss, for instance, it'll send you back to the first part of that level. There's like 3 sections to each level. This is the factory setting, one of my favorites, utilizing the black and yellow stripes to indicate a factory industrial environment. Gotta have the things that move one direction while Shinobi moves the other. That's a necessity in any good two-dimensional fighting action game. Something else that Revenge of Shinobi does well, you can shoot your enemies off the screen. So becoming familiar with the levels certainly helps you, because if you know a bad guy is there, like just right around the corner, you can shoot him before he even sees you. This works up to a point. It doesn't work like throughout the entire board, but if the bad guy is just a few inches off screen, you can nail them with your shuriken. Shinobi jumps over the fire and makes it out of the level. Shinobi is famous for its end bosses, and in the second part of the review we'll get to see some pretty exciting things, but the first part here, I like this guy, the replica of the Terminator, complete with the sunglasses. Here's a great example of a level and why this game is so much different than Ninja Gaiden, and why I like it a lot more than Ninja Gaiden. You have a variety of ways that you can get through this level. You do not have to follow just any one path. And what I'm doing is I'm not destroying all of the crates so that I can use them to jump off of to get up there faster, because I can't stand those damn laser beams shooting me. Another thing I forgot to mention earlier, if you look on top of the screen, you'll see that you have 4 ninja superpowers, as I call them. Now, I used a couple of them earlier. You can make enormous red pillars of fire that go back and forth on the screen and destroy the enemies. You can put an electric force field around you. You can have one that makes you jump higher. I think the other one explodes Shinobi if you're low on health, and then sends out a powerful shockwave, and then you lose a life, but you also come back with full health. This is another very clever level where they use the front and back of the screen. This level's challenging too because the red car will hit you. Now you have to watch when you spin in midair to switch between the front and back, because you don't want to land in the red car. You have the nun/ninjas jumping at you, and you can also accidentally spin right off of the front of the screen into a bottomless pit. It's a very tall expressway in Shinobi Land. It's like Cloud City. They build them really, really high. Part 2, we'll see some very exciting things that you may or may not know about in Revenge of Shinobi. I did this one in 2 parts for a couple reasons. One, I could talk about Revenge of Shinobi all day. I love this game. And 2, I got to practice a bit more so I can get through all of the early levels without losing a life once. As I said, I'm a bit rusty, and this game gets very challenging. And if any game deserves a modern-day sequel on one of the new game systems, it's this one. They could call it the Avenging Disco Shinobi, in honor of the Avenging Disco Godfather, which stars Rudy Ray Moore, who is, of course, Dolomite. It's a good movie. Check that one out.